All right, strap yourselves in because this deep dive is going to take us straight to the cutting edge of AI. We're talking about Claude 3.5 beta, but not just the usual stuff like text and code generation. This time, it's about how it actually uses computers.
Hmm.
Like, really uses them.
Yeah, it's a huge jump. We're moving past AI being stuck in its own little digital world. Now it can interact directly with our digital world, like websites and software and all that.
So does that mean we don't have to build special environments for it anymore? No more translating our commands into AI language?
Exactly. Anthropic's goal is to make it totally seamless. They want Claude to work within the same digital space we do, and that means it needs to understand what it sees on the screen.
Wait, hold on. It can actually see the screen. How's that even possible?
Okay, think about OCR, optical character recognition, how it scans a document and pulls out the text. It's kind of like that, but way more advanced. Claude uses some really sophisticated image recognition stuff to interpret what it sees in a screenshot.
So it's not just reading text. It actually figures out what those buttons and icons and menus do.
That's it. It builds a model of the interface, works out what actions it can take, and then based on your instructions decides what to do. Imagine you give Claude a screenshot of your email inbox, right? And you tell it, find that email from, let's say, Bob, and forward it to this address. It just does it.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. This is next level stuff, like digital delegation or something.
And we're just scratching the surface. One of the things that makes Claude so different is how it can handle tasks that involve multiple steps, even across different apps. Anthropic actually tested it on something called Osworld, a benchmark specifically designed to see how well AI can use computers.
Osworld. Sounds intense. So how did Claude measure up against us humans?
Well, first, gotta remember that humans score between 70% and 75% on Osworld. The best AI before Claude got a 7.8%. Claude hit 14.9%.
Whoa, so even though it's not quite human level yet, it's already twice as good as anything else out there. That's crazy. What kind of tasks are we talking about here?
Let's say planning a trip, right? You could tell Claude to research places, check distances on maps, find the best flights, even add it to your calendar. All those things that usually mean jumping between websites and apps.
Okay, so no more spending hours clicking around and copying and pasting. I can just tell Claude what to do and it's done. I'm sold. But gotta ask, what does this actually mean for people using Claude? Like real benefits, what are they?
Think about a world where all those tedious tasks that eat up your time, like data entry, research, even booking appointments or managing your finances, you could just offload all that to Claude. You'd be free to focus on the strategic, creative stuff, the work that really matters.
Like having a super efficient digital assistant who can actually use your computer, not just respond to basic commands.
Exactly. And it's not just about saving time, it's about accuracy, too. Think how many mistakes we make when we're tired or distracted, especially with tons of data. Claude could eliminate those human errors.
This is starting to sound like a productivity dream.
Hmm.
But before we get carried away, what about the risks? Is it really safe to let an AI loose on our computers? What if it goes rogue and, I don't know, orders 1,000 pizzas to my house?
It's a fair question, and one Anthropic takes very seriously. They've built in a bunch of safety measures, like using virtual machines to isolate what Claude does and limiting its access to sensitive data. It's like putting up guardrails to make sure it stays within the limits of what you've allowed.
So like giving it a learner's permit before letting it loose on the highway.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And just like with any new tech, you got to use it responsibly and be aware of the risks. But the potential benefits here, they're just too big to ignore.
Okay, so Claude 3.5 beta can use computers in some pretty amazing ways. We've established that. But what about the how behind the wow? What makes this particular AI so good at interacting with our digital world? Is it just the image recognition or is there more to it?
Well, the image recognition is a big part of it for sure, but there are a couple of other things that really contribute to Claude's capabilities. First, the sheer scale of the model. Claude 3.5 beta is a massive neural network trained on a huge amount of text and code. This gives it a deep understanding of language, logic, and even human behavior online.
So it's not just seeing pixels, it's actually understanding the context of what it's seeing.
Yeah, exactly. And the second key thing is Anthropic's focus on developing AI that is both safe and aligned with human values. They've put a lot of effort into making sure that Claude is reliable, helpful, and, well, not going to order 1,000 pizzas.
I appreciate that. So it sounds like we're talking about a pretty significant advancement in AI, something that could potentially change how we work, how we use technology, maybe even how we think about the relationship between humans and machines.
Absolutely. And what's even more exciting is that we're just at the beginning of this technology. As Claude keeps learning and improving, who knows what incredible things it'll be capable of.
All right, well, let's shift gears for a second, talk about Claude's sort of younger, faster sibling, Claude 3.5 Haiku.
Ah, yes. Haiku is a really interesting case study in efficiency and affordability. It's a smaller model than Beta, but it's surprisingly powerful. It can actually match or even beat Claude 3 Opus in many cases, and that was the largest model before.
Okay, so we're talking about a more compact, cheaper version that's somehow even more powerful in some areas. That sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, there are some trade-offs, of course. Haiku may not have the same range of capabilities as Beta, and it's not as good for super complex multi-step tasks. But for a lot of applications, especially things like language processing, generating code, even creative writing, it's an incredibly powerful tool.
So like having a Swiss Army knife versus a whole toolbox, both are useful. It just depends on what you need it for.
Exactly. And what's particularly interesting about Haiku is how good it is at coding. It actually beats some much larger models on coding benchmarks. It got an impressive 40.6% on the SWE Bench Coding Challenge.
Hold on, so a smaller, more affordable model is outperforming the big guys in coding. That's a big deal, especially for people who aren't, tech experts.
It is. It has the potential to democratize access to advanced AI, making it possible for individuals and smaller businesses to use the power of AI without breaking the bank.
That's a powerful idea, especially as AI becomes more and more a part of everything we do. It's like leveling the playing field, giving everyone a chance to participate in this technological revolution.
And that's something Anthropic is really passionate about, making AI accessible, beneficial, and safe for everyone.
This whole conversation has been really thought-provoking. We've gone from AI understanding screenshots to automating tasks to writing code and making advanced technology available to everyone. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
We are, absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about this field. We're constantly pushing the boundaries, discovering new capabilities, and dealing with the huge implications of what we're creating.
It's a wild ride, but someone's got to take it. Speaking of which, let's take a quick break and then come back to explore some real-world examples of how companies are already using Claude 3.5 Beta's computer use capabilities. This is where things get really interesting.
I agree. See you on the other side. Welcome back. Now let's get into some real-world examples of how Claude 3.5 Beta's computer use skills are being used. This isn't just theory. These are companies actually using it right now.
This is what I love, seeing how this tech actually works in the real world. What are some of the coolest examples you've seen?
Well, one that really caught my eye is Replit, that online coding platform. They're using Claude 3.5 beta to build a feature that evaluates apps as they're being built. It really streamlines the whole development process.
So it's like having an AI coding buddy, like looking over your shoulder, giving you feedback as you work.
Exactly. But it's more than just finding errors. Claude can actually understand the whole app, the interface, even what the user's trying to do. It can offer insights that you'd usually need a human expert for.
That's amazing. It makes you wonder if we'll even need regular software testing anymore, if AI can do it that well.
It's a good question, and Replit's not the only one. We're seeing companies like Asana and Canva looking into Claude's potential for automating workflows.
Canva, the design platform. That's interesting. What are they doing with it?
It seems like they're exploring how Claude can help users create more complex designs. Imagine saying, hey, Claude, I need a design for a social media post about our new product. And it just goes and does it, pulls in images, text, even suggests layouts.
That'd be incredible, especially for small businesses or people who don't have a whole design team. It's like having a pro designer right there.
It really does make those sophisticated design tools available to everyone, which, like we talked about before, is a big theme with a lot of these applications. Another company that stood out to me is Cognition. They specialize in, get this, AI evaluations.
So they're using AI to test other AI. It's kind of meta. What have they found?
They're using the new Claude 3.5 Sonnet for, well, autonomous AI testing. They've said it's much better than the previous version at coding, planning, and problem solving.
Wow, that really shows how fast this field is moving. But I'm curious about the ethical side of things. If we're using AI to evaluate other AI, how do we make sure there's no bias sneaking in? How do we know the evaluation itself is fair?
It's a super important point, and it shows how crucial transparency and rigorous testing are when we're building and using AI systems, especially when they're evaluating other AIs. We have to be very careful about the data used to train these models, making sure it's representative and doesn't have any biases that could skew the results.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about Replit, Asana, Canva, and Cognition. Any other companies using Claude 3.5 in cool ways that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, definitely. The browser company is another great example. They're focused on automating web-based workflows, and they've reported that Claude 3.5 Sonnet is better than any other model they've tried.
Web-based workflows, so all those repetitive things we do online every day, like booking appointments, buying stuff, managing accounts. Could Claude potentially streamline all of that?
Potentially, yeah. It's still early, but the possibilities are huge. Imagine saying, Claude, book me a doctor's appointment for next Tuesday afternoon. Or, Claude, find the best deal on flights to Hawaii. And it just takes care of it.
Hmm. That's what I call a personal assistant. But with all this automation, AI taking over tasks, there's got to be a question about jobs. Could this lead to, a lot of people losing their jobs?
That's a real concern for sure, and we can't ignore it. But if you look back at history, technological advances often lead to new opportunities, even as they change the job market. AI is a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we use it.
So instead of being afraid of AI, we should focus on adapting and preparing for this changing world.
Exactly. It's about embracing lifelong learning, developing new skills, finding ways to work with AI, not against it.
It's about seeing AI as a partner, not a replacement. Now, going back to Anthropic for a second, they've been pretty open about Claude 3.5 beta still being under development, not perfect. They've even shared some stories that show the challenges they've faced.
Yeah, the one about Claude stopping a coding demo to look at pictures of Yellowstone National Park. I remember that one.
Oh,
It's a good reminder that even with all the progress in AI, these systems can still do unexpected things.
like they have their own little minds, a curiosity that can lead them down these weird paths.
It's a really interesting insight into how these AI models work. They're always learning and changing, and sometimes that learning takes them in directions we don't expect.
Which is why it's so important to approach AI development carefully and with humility.
Absolutely. We need to be aware of the potential risks as
Mhm.
well as the benefits, and we need to make sure that we're developing AI in a way that's aligned with human values, that it serves the greater good.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. Claude 3.5 beta's ability to use computers is a big deal, and the potential applications are amazing and exciting. But, like with any powerful technology, there are ethical and societal implications we need to think about carefully. Any final thoughts on this before we move on?
I think we're at a really important point in how AI is developing. We're seeing capabilities that we used to think were only human. And as we keep pushing the limits of what's possible, it's more important than ever to have open and honest conversations about the future we want to build with AI.
Absolutely. It's a future we're all shaping together, and we have to approach it with a sense of wonder, but also with responsibility.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, we've covered a lot in this deep dive, huh? From AI understanding screenshots to automating those complicated tasks, even to questions about the future of work and the ethics of all this advanced AI.
It has been a journey, that's for sure, and it really shows just how fast AI is changing.
Yeah, it feels like we're watching a tech revolution happening right in front of us, which is exciting, but also kind of scary.
I think that's a good way to put it. It's a time of huge potential, but also a time to be careful and have those tough conversations.
So before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap for everyone listening. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive into Claude 3.5 beta and Haiku?
Well, first off, Claude 3.5 beta's ability to actually use computers, that's a huge deal. It's still early, but the potential to automate all those workflows, handle complex tasks across different apps, it could totally change how we interact with computers.
Yeah, it's like we're seeing a new kind of AI emerge, one that can just fit right into our digital world and use the tools we've already built.
And what's really amazing is that it's doing all this while also getting better at reasoning, understanding what it sees, and interacting smoothly with those
You're not
interfaces.
just using our tools, it's using them in a smart and efficient way.
Right. And then there's Claude 3.5 Haiku, which proves that you can have power and affordability together. It shows that Anthropic is serious about making advanced AI accessible to everyone.
It's like they're saying, hey, everyone deserves a chance to experience the future of computing.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that question we asked before. If AI can use our tools now, what will our tools look like in the future?
Will we even need keyboards and mice anymore if AI can understand our voices, our gestures, even anticipate what we need? It's pretty wild to think about.
It really makes you wonder what the future holds for how we interact with computers.
Hmm.
Will it be like A seamless blend of AI and human abilities where we work together to do things we never thought possible.
That's an exciting thought, but it comes with challenges too. The more we hand over to AI, the more we need to make sure things stay transparent, accountable, that we're still in control.
We need to make sure AI stays a tool that helps humanity, not the other way around.
Exactly. And that means keeping the conversation going, talking about the ethical side of things, and being really thoughtful as we explore this new territory.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for everyone listening. If AI can now learn to use our tools, what can we learn from it? Could working with AI lead us to new discoveries, new ways of thinking, maybe even a better understanding of what we humans are capable of?
That's definitely something to think about. And remember, the exploring doesn't have to stop here. Check out the show notes for links to all the sources we talked about and more resources if you want to dive even deeper into this topic.
That's right. Keep those minds curious, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge. Until then, keep exploring.